到哇到手炮。
Dragon Ball Z Kakarot is one of the most anticipated DBZ games to release this year, and within doing so, why don't we discuss and observe everything this game has to offer before its release, and then come to a conclusion if Dbzkakarot is worth full price or is it just another anime game waiting to be released. Now, how this game show is going to work is, we'll start off with the game's more positive features, and then after that section is over and done with, we'll then go over the more negative side that this game has to offer, and at the end, we'll come up with an estimate number of if this game is worth full price or not. But when it comes to calculating the price range, we'll do everything times 10, so basically 10, 20, etc. So without further ado, let's begin.
Today, starting at 10, the Dragon Ball Z Kai Brawlathon. First,
what stands before you now is the thing you fear most. I am a Super Saiyan.
Then, he's back, and Goku set his sights on Frieza.
I will defeat you!
The Dragon Ball Z Kai Brawlathon. Today at 10 on the CW4 Kids.
Save planet Earth. Join Goku and friends on his quest to save the world. Live out his everyday life as you fly, fish, eat, and train in the world of Dragon Ball.
Dragon Ball Z Kakarot is the second iteration of the open-world JRPG formula for the Dragon Ball Z series, with the first one being the Legacy of Goku 1 and 2, both being released on the Game Boy Advance in 2002 and in 2003. So it's safe to say that the streets have been yearning for another RPG DBZ game, especially since those two installments of the Legacy of Goku series are highly recommended by die-hard fans of the series, especially back in that era. So I think it's safe to say that we've waited long enough for a revival of the action RPG goodness.
Hi, I'm Christopher Sabat. I'm the voice of Vegeta, Piccolo, Yamcha, and others on Dragon Ball Z. I'm here at Webfoot Technologies to find out how they can make a huge show like Dragon Ball Z into a tiny little Game Boy Advance game. Follow me. I'll take you behind the scenes for a look at the making of the Legacy of Goku 2. Here we go.
Webfoot is extremely excited to make Dragon Ball Z into a video game. It's such a great show, and it really deserves to be a great video game. So we're working our hardest to do the best that we can, and we think that the fans will be pleased with Legacy of Goku.
Legacy of Goku games, my job was to draw the characters. I pretty much drew almost every character that you see in the game, although I had a bit of help, so I can't claim all the credit. But from the start, they basically handed me character sketches or screenshots straight from the show or any other sort of reference materials, action figures, anything, and said, here, draw these characters doing these moves, and I took it and went. You can do a decent walk in, well, you can do a walk in 2 frames or 3 frames. We chose 4 frames to make the walk look as good as possible without wasting too many frames, since unfortunately memory is an issue. And the Game Boy Advance can only hold so much of this, so you have to pare it down. Something that's so popular, and to actually be able to work on the Game Boy Advance and to make something like this on the computer and then play it on a Game Boy and see it in action is just, it's just amazing.
I was a Dragon Ball Z fan since it first started playing on Cartoon Network, and so being given the opportunity to have input into part of the Dragon Ball Z universe has been a real joy.
It is exciting because, you know, more people will hear this music than would ever hear the stuff I used to write in college and all that kind of stuff.
Okay, that was amazing. Now that you know how they make it, go out and play it, live it, and love it. I'll see you on Dragon Ball Z.
Dragon Ball Z Kakarot has you explore and experience playable moments throughout all the Z Fighters ordeals and tournament events, with situations such as Majin Vegeta, Adult Gohan, and Vegeta throughout all the free roaming sections that you can explore throughout the game, and hasn't been implemented or experimented on since Dragon Ball Z Budokai 3 on the PS2 in 2004, which may I say is the best-selling Dragon Ball Z game to date. Dragon Ball Z Kakarot has a variety of events and activities that takes place during the main story campaigns, with tasks such as customizing vehicles, riding around Hercule City, and even doing side quests such as playing baseball, gathering food for new meals to level up your status, and so much more. So, balls in your mouth. Dragon Ball Z Kakarot has different outfits for most of the members of the Z-Cast, with Vegeta wearing his pink shirt outfit that Bulma gave him during the Trunks saga in one of the most recent trailers. Dragon Ball Z Kakarot throughout the story mode has seasonal or weather environments. For example, most characters are playable during the summertime, but in some cases, like in the Trunks saga, it will be during the winter season, and everything will be seasonal based after you complete set arcs. So I think it's a pretty cool touch that weather environments changes throughout not only the arcs itself, but throughout gameplay moments depending on which character you pick. If you're not a fan of anime arena brawlers or 3D action games, then no fear, because Dragon Ball Z Kakarot is not only an action RPG game, but you can level up your character, build up your skill tree depending on which member of the Z fighter you pick, gather nutrients and fish, and speed up the leveling process to make yourself the ultimate Super Saiyan you always wanted to be.
For the old Dragon Ball Z website? Well, kiss it goodbye, because the Dragon Ball Z website has been redone in a whole new way. Check out the new website at dragonballz.com, where you'll find the latest on Dragon Ball Z. Start at the chat room, where you can connect with other fans and discuss the up-to-the-minute developments. Then on to flashcards, which you can swap with your friends. There's also Z-cards to send, desktop patterns to download, episode summaries of the various Dragon Ball Z sagas, as well as the most up-to-date news on the good guys and the bad guys. While you're there, don't forget to access the DBZ store, where you'll find all of today's hottest Dragon Ball merchandise, such as action figures from Irwin Toys, trading cards, playing cards, and collectible card games, t-shirts and other apparel, such as hats and boxers, wall scrolls and posters, electronic games, finger skateboards and miniature bikes, school supplies,
playsets, chromocells, dinnerware, Afghans, sunglasses,
well, trust me, there's just a lot of really cool stuff at dragonballz.com. Visit us today.
Many of the events, activities, features, mechanics, side missions, combat specials, and even transformations are very similar to Breath of the Wild, with a more Dragon Ball aesthetic when it comes to everything. So if you were itching for a more hands-on open world anime game similar to Breath of the Wild, then look no further than Dragon Ball Z Kakarot. One of the strongest members of the Ginyu Force will be able to train alongside you and even give you stronger abilities, especially if you pre-order Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, and that character is none other than Banyu herself. Now of course, having early access to this character is extremely needed, because not only is she one of the strongest characters you can train with within during the beginning of the game, but it'd be best to get your workout in, especially with an amazing character such as Banyu. Instead of doing a bunch of random side quests to level up, why not give yourself a bit of a challenge with such an amazing and outstanding character herself, than none other than Banyu, just waiting to be tested out and trained with, and especially with how beautiful she is overall as a character. Dragon Ball Z Kakarot is the first official DBZ game that has a filler episode entwining with the main story campaign and going around the hub world, this filler episode being episode 125, when Piccolo and Goku get their first official driver's license during the Trunks saga, in which, by the way, at some point in time during the hub world, you can drive around with Kid Gohan in the passenger side. Dragon Ball Z Kakarot releases on January 16th of this year, so why not kick off the year of 2020 with the best open world anime game that we'll ever experience at the start of this year.
What's his name anyway?
Cloud Strife, and he says it's former soldier. Look, heavy security like this, you want a professional.
We're paying you more than a few gil. You best be worth it.
Look, I don't care about your politics.
Dragon Ball Z Kakarot is being developed and made by the amazing company of CyberConnect 2, or CC2 for short, which has made such amazing games such as the Naruto Storm series, Asura's Wrath, the Dawn Hack franchise, and surprisingly enough, CC2 was the first developers to work on the 2020 Final Fantasy VII remake in 2015, before Square Enix had switched over to a different company, of course. But with an amazing track record like that under their belt, I think it's safe to say that over at CC2 are more than capable of doing a great job at providing a beautiful and outstanding experience for DBZ fans worldwide. Alright, so now with the positives out the way, now it's time for the negative side of things.
You're watching Dragon Ball Z Kai. Next, Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds. Then, another Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds. Right here on the CW4 Kids. Boomsay!
Although we're all excited to sink our teeth into Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, it goes without saying that this game follows the original story of the Raditz saga all the way down to the Buu saga, and who hasn't played these story campaigns to death by now throughout the decade that we've all experienced throughout every Dragon Ball Z game at this point in time. So here's our total. Wait, that's more than the full price range. What version of Dragon Ball Z Kakarot could possibly cost more than the base game with all this content that I listed for this video?
Today, we once again open ourselves up to a barrage of hostile email as we review a brand new Dragon Ball Z title.
Yeah, get ready. Here's a review of Dragon Ball Z Budokai 2.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming!
Though you probably expected distinct big boobies, are we still allowed to say boobies? Dragon Ball Z Budokai 2 actually isn't half bad. For a game based on an aging cartoon series, it actually manages to get a couple of things right.
Which fighters will we see? The excitement is mounting!
Firstly, its gameplay is actually tight and surprisingly accessible. Just don't expect no fighting game science. Secondly, it looks very faithful to its source material.
You've got some nerve not calling him Master Frieza.
Lastly, I'm dry.
Hey, come on, fight me right!
Well, two positive things ain't bad. As far as the single-player game goes, it is fairly inventive and interesting.
Not bad!
Playing Dragon Ball Z Budokai 2 is pretty. The rules stay the same. Shoot out crazy projectiles. The choice of characters include midgets, this dude with the crazy hair, and the little green guy who looks like a possessed kazoo. You can punch and kick too, and string attacks into more complex combos. But you'll find that it isn't really necessary. Come on, you've seen the cartoon, it's all about the mega explosive projectiles. You'll occasionally get locked up with your enemies, during which time you'll have to mash the buttons like crazy to come out on top. But at the risk of sounding like a broken record, it's usually all about the projectiles. One of the cooler things about Budokai 2 is that after especially hard-hitting attacks, the environment itself will often respond. Hey, aren't there child cruelty laws against this sort of thing? The single-player game itself is actually kind of interesting. It's basically a board game in which you travel around a bunch of maps based on the series locales, fighting all kinds of enemies. But many of the sequences have you fighting the same enemy over and over. And if your attention span is anything like most Dragon Ball Z fans, then you're going to want to maul your TV after a couple of hours. There's no doubt about it, Budokai 2 is one for the fans. While the fighting is more than halfway decent, it's too shallow and strategically repetitive.
That's enough!
Aw, man, this is so embarrassing.
X-Play gives Dragon Ball Z Budokai 2 a 3 out of 5.
Okay, that's all for today.